welcome to the Whealth Podcast. I'm here with our second in-person podcast. We got Andrew Johnson in the house. What's up, Andrew? How are we?
All right.
There we go.
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So what is your story? I mean, why did you do the Whealth not the Whealth Podcast? I guess, why are you doing the Whealth Podcast?
To share my story,
Okay.
which has been pretty remarkable. And I'm just so grateful for Whealth. So I thought, why not share my story if it could help even one person, right?
Sure. Well, I think it will, knowing what I know about you, but what got you into Whealth in the first place?
Yeah. So, well, I've been dealing with chronic pain for about 10 years.
Okay.
And I know I look pretty young, but yeah, so I'm 28, and unfortunately, pain does not discriminate on age. But I've tried so many other forms of rehab or just strengthening, and I just never found the right solution for me. And so I almost gave up hope, and then I found Whealth on social media, actually, I think, through the Instagram Explore page, and then I thought, why not do this?
Sure.
And then the rest is history.
And the rest is history. But
yeah.
So Andrew, what were you specifically dealing with? You kind of gave me a rundown of the injuries, but like, what was that first injury that you dealt with?
Yeah. So the first one was the ankle pain.
Okay.
It was from a basketball injury back actually in high school, never fully healed. And then over time, it started affecting other joints in my body, knees, hips, back. And then basically when I applied for Whealth, my shoulder and my neck pain were the worst areas.
Okay. So if I remember correctly, so around like 17, 18, that was your ankle injury when you were playing basketball in high school?
Right.
Okay. And you are how old now?
28.
28. So 10 years ago was the impetus of kind of the chain reaction of the full body pain. What was that specific injury that you dealt with during basketball? Do you know? Do you recall?
Yeah. Oh, I do.
Okay.
So I pulled a ligament and I had like a severe ankle strain, or actually it was a sprain. I just landed on someone's foot and my ankle went.
Okay.
And so I was in a walking boot and crutches for quite some time, and I was stubborn, so I just wanted to get back on the court so quickly, and I never fully healed.
Okay.
And because of that, looking back at it, my body was overcompensating for like the weak ankle strength that I had, or lack thereof. So that's how the other parts of my body started getting some pain too.
Okay. And so 10 years later, if I recall, you started Limitless in January of this year, right?
It was like December.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically
at the time of recording, it is Friday, May 9th, a good Friday here with my guy, Andrew. So 5 months in the Limitless program.
Yeah.
And you and I got coffee about a month ago, and I kind of learned more of your story. I was like, we got to have you on the podcast. So that was cool getting coffee with you. So all things equal, a pretty quick turnaround with the program. And you were just talking, I mean, you left a lengthy Google review, which was awesome to read. And I was like, wow, I really, knowing that you were in San Diego as well with me, I was like, I got to meet this guy. We got to get in there. We got to go start playing some pickleball, do something like that. But so the first thing that happened was the ankle injury about 10 years ago. Can you kind of take me through? I know, obviously you could take 10 years to explain the 10 years of pain and how you got here. But I mean, what were some of those big milestones along the way with pain, with rehab? What started happening to your body over the past 10 years?
Yeah, it is like a marathon. So going down memory lane. So I went to college and I actually used to run.
Okay.
I told him beforehand, I'm not a runner, but
not yet. We got to get you back. got to get you back and strong and running.
Yeah, honestly, I'm open to it.
Okay.
But I started actually not having any more ankle pain, but it was knee pain. And so I remember I just kind of turned into like a swimmer at that point, where because it was just not as much pressure on the joints.
Sure.
But it never really fixed the problem.
Okay.
I would say.
You're talking about the ankle problem. You just kind of started to So did you avoid, when you say you didn't fix the problem, did you just stop playing basketball? You stopped doing impact, plyometrics, like?
I still played basketball just for fun in college, but I felt like I wasn't 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. So I also went to in-person PT
For the ankle.
for the knee at that point,
Okay.
and it just never fully healed.
Did you have a specific diagnosis or anything wrong with the knee, if you remember at all, or was it just general discomfort?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just discomfort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, was it more than discomfort? Was it?
Well, it was pain. It was pain for sure, but I think what's tough for even a physical therapist is if there's no imaging, if there's, you know, nothing that they can physically see, it's hard to dictate how bad the injury is.
Right.
Or the pain is, because that's pretty subjective to the patient.
Sure. So when you say that, I assume you're alluding to the fact that you got some sort of imaging and then they were like, oh, Andrew, your knee's fine, essentially?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I actually got an MRI on my knee.
Okay.
And there were no findings.
Okay. So no findings. And so what did the PT experience look like with that knee?
It got to the point where, and this isn't anything towards the PT personally, but they got to keep doing their day to day, see all their patients, and it got to a point where I was just doing the same exercises over and over again.
Sure.
I thought I could do this at home. I don't want to keep paying all these copays, and so I just stopped going.
Okay.
And
so we went from the ankle, which was a legitimate kind of acute injury, to the knee started hurting in college, roughly?
Yeah, so it started in college.
Okay. And then how did that progress from knee pain?
So I'll say the knee pain lasted for about 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It was just kind of
How does the knee feel right now?
Oh, it doesn't even hurt. Yeah, there's no pain. There's no pain. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah. So I'm really thankful for that. After the knee pain, I realized that my hips were also starting to hurt. So I almost felt like it was traveling from the bottom up.
Yeah,
right?
kind of up the chain.
Yeah. And I mean, at this point, I fully understand, like, everything's connected now. But at the time, I always assumed that the source of, or the area of the pain was the source of the pain.
Sure.
Which isn't always the case.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Okay. So I would say the hip pain was what came next.
Okay. And then did you, like, as you're going through these things, did you go and try to get an MRI or X-ray on the hip?
No, not the hip.
Okay. So because why? Was it just?
I actually don't know if I had a specific reason. Well, first off, any type of imaging like an MRI is not cheap.
Yeah. What is it? A few K?
I don't remember what I spent at the time for my ankle or excuse me, my knee, but I think what was interesting about that experience is that with my knee, I didn't find, there were no like results as to what I had.
It was inconclusive,
which was more frustrating to me than like actually having something. So I just didn't feel the desire to get one for my hip, if that makes sense.
What was more frustrating about not getting a diagnosis?
Oh, because I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted answers, because then I thought if I have the answer, then I could find a solution.
Yeah. So I think that's a very logical thought process. I think that's what we see a lot of our members deal with, is they want the MRI or they want the X-ray because their back hurts or they have sciatica or whatever. And they want to know how many millimeters is my disc protruding or herniated, or what does the labrum look like? And I think, that's a whole nother topic, but a lot of times the MRI and X-ray just truly does not show the full picture or how to move forward from there.
Right.
Okay. So, having that experience, you were hoping for something on the MRI or the X-ray to tell you, hey, Andrew, this right here is what's wrong with your knee. And then now that we know what's wrong with your knee, then we can do something about it. But you didn't get that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So then the hip started hurting and that sort of thing. I mean, at that time, when you go from the ankle to the knee to the hip pain from 18 years old to, well, you said the knee pain lasted 7 years, and we're going to kind of cover what started happening with the shoulder and neck. But I mean, I know what it's like to be when I was 21 when I had the back pain and sciatica, and, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. But, you know, you and I were so young at that time to be having pain. And I know you had pain really for a long time as well, even, you know, to your late 20s or almost now. But I mean, how was that affecting you at that age of your life?
Well, it was humbling because
that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. I had a background in exercise science in college.
Oh, really?
So,
is that what you studied?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I found the science and the anatomy pretty interesting. But
where did you go to school?
In Georgia. Yeah. So
are you born and raised in Georgia?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I stayed in state for undergrad, and I thought I understood how the body worked, and then year by year, it's like I was getting in more and more pain. I'm like, I clearly have a lot to actually understand.
Sure.
But also it affected me mentally.
Yeah.
And that's what's tough, because I would overthink everything that I had planned for the day. Like, for example, this was even up to last year. I would go to restaurants with friends or whatever, and I would have to get up to go to the bathroom to like kind of like crack my neck, because I didn't want to keep doing it like at the table
in front of people.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I would go and try not to cause a scene, but it's like I would have to get up and go to the bathroom.
Sure. You're like, hey guys, I don't want you to think I have a pain problem, but then now you think I have a tiny bladder.
Oh yeah, well, which is actually true. And I drink a lot of water, but
sure.
so I lean on that. But like,
sure, I just keep drinking water.
Yeah. So my friends are always like, yeah, you always got to go to the bathroom. That's true, but you don't actually know the reason why.
Wow. Okay, so I mean, just things like that when you're out socially or sitting. I mean, and as we're sitting right now, so if this were back then, would you just be constantly thinking about your neck and shoulders?
Yeah, because it was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah,
it was just like there, persistent.
Yeah. And once you start to get that neck and strap tightness, I mean, it just,
oh my God,
when it's like up here too.
Yeah.
I mean, the signals are sent to the brain, and I mean, I don't know. I had, like I said, I'll say it 100 times. I had sciatica and the pain was down in my leg, but I mean, you're feeling it up here as well. But
yeah,
there is something to be said. I mean, that's where you'll start to see people with neck pain and tightness, and then kind of some sort of correlation to migraines and stuff like that. You know, that's where that can be challenging. So that was affecting you mentally in that regard. You're kind of trying to, so were you trying to hide the pain from others, or what was going on in that realm?
I think I didn't want to make it a big deal.
Okay.
Also because I consider myself rather young. I was a little stubborn, and I was like, and I grew up as an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like,
was it all basketball?
No, I did soccer for a decade. I was a swimmer as well. Okay. And then I just loved playing like different sports with friends, but I just always saw myself as someone that was on the athletic side. So I just didn't want to fully accept that I was deteriorating like day by day.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, and I think I like that aspect of that, at least. You know, I know partially I kind of felt like that. It's a denial. It's,
yeah,
you know, I'm young. I mean, you don't want to accept it, right? You can't really believe it, because, you know, in one part of your life, you've been an athlete, you've been someone that's put in the work, you've been someone that values taking care of yourself. So then I think what we see for people who identify as healthy, but they have pain, or when we have members who identify as someone who would like to take care of themselves, they've been athletes, they're in the gym, they'll do whatever they can, and then you have pain, it can be very depressive and confusing, because you almost wonder, like, why me? Why am I dealing with this?
Yes.
I'm the last person that should be dealing with this, because I would love to take care of my body.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people would say, I would love to take care of my body, you know, but I have pain. But I think there are levels to that, because obviously there's people who just truly like have never taken care of themselves and they have pain. And I think that can be a different and more difficult demographic to kind of have the buy-in to do a program like ours, because maybe they don't really appreciate health and fitness and working out as much as some of our members who are athletes who can't wait to get back to the gym, or people who love to hike or they want to walk or just have any sort of sense of appreciation for their body, and it's kind of been taken away. um, it's challenging for no matter what the age and that sort of thing. But
And actually, I want to add to that
yeah.
because I also have worked in like a hospital setting after college.
Oh, really?
Yeah, specifically, it was a neurosciences center. So a lot of people with like musculoskeletal pain. And there I got a lot of insight on the general population. And what I've learned is that we're also kind of almost brainwashed as a society to like just expect someone else to fix our problem. And so I would see these patients that would come in week after week, not getting any better. But part of it is they don't know how to get better. It's almost like they might rely on certain medications to help offset the symptoms. But as we know, that doesn't always fix the root cause. And so sometimes it's just awareness as well, right?
Sure.
And that's a thing that I think we have to, as a society, like start to shift our mindset on.
That's a really interesting topic about the brainwashing of, so you're saying, how did you come to start to identify this belief that you're having, like we are brainwashed in that, or where were you seeing that? That was at the center?
Yeah, because I learned, and I want to preface by saying, I think there are incredible people in healthcare. I think there's such good intentions with the doctors, and we need them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to chronic pain, from what I've seen in traditional hospital settings, and I'm not talking PT specifically, but just going to seek care, is that it's a business, right? So like the hospital needs to have enough revenue to keep itself going. So if all these patients are coming in and they get their problem solved and they stop coming, the hospital doesn't earn as much money.
Right.
And so that's where I really got the insight of, as much as people in the healthcare industry want to help, the higher ups, the administration, the traditional hospital settings, they also have to look at the bottom line and see, is the money coming in?
Interesting. Do you have any specific examples of that you can think of, like in the hospital where there were, because it makes you go, it makes you wonder, is it an ignorance problem of just wanting to treat the patients as best as we can, but we believe this is the best thing, or like to give them no credit? Hey, we know this truly is a business, and the best possible thing is like keep them sick, right? Your mind kind of goes there, and then it's like, oh, maybe it's somewhere in between. But like, what were some of those examples that you saw with that?
Oh man, what? There are several.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I think it's both.
Yeah.
It's not always black and white, but so I'll share this story from COVID.
Okay.
So I was working in the hospital 5 days a week during peak of COVID, and a lot of the doctors had to make their in-person visits to virtual.
Right.
And also a lot of doctors didn't feel comfortable treating people in person because of the pandemic and COVID. So after quite some time, the hospital leadership was telling these doctors, hey, if you don't make your virtual visits to in person again, you're going to lose your office space, because in person visits cost more than a virtual visit.
Right. Yeah.
So that, to me, that's like an example where I got the insight of, wow, this really is a business.
Yeah, it is a business for sure. Yeah.
But then on the other side of that, I've seen doctors who are really passionate about their work, and they do believe that the type of care that they're giving is what's best for the patient.
Yeah.
So, and I've worked closely with doctors that explain why they think a certain medication is better than the other. Or they'll give even a patient like some homework to do, but that's where it gets hard because not all people want to really do the work on themselves, right?
Right. You kind of have, like, if there is a hierarchy where we, the people, are supposed to be getting care from the medical system, which I don't necessarily like, yes, but also I believe we should be taking care of ourselves and not being reliant. But let's just say, to make it a simple kind of hierarchy, which again, I don't think it should be like this, but just medical system and then person, there are people who will just like demonize the crap out of the medical system, saying like, it's all bad, it's all bad. But then conversely, you could flip that. And the reality is there's so many awesome medical professionals that would say, hey, we need you to do this, 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 and this to get healthy. And the patient doesn't want to do it. The patient doesn't want to do the work. They don't want to eat well. They won't take their supplements. They won't follow the prescription. So then I would say that's where then a professional would say, well, if they're not going to do this, at least the next best thing we could do to help them would be kind of give them that quick fix. So you'll have people who want the quick fix. And then also, alternatively, I do believe that there's a lot of issues within the medical system that are not suited to help patients who want to be helped, right? And so I feel like that's kind of where we're at with Whealth, is finding the place for the people that we can help. For instance, myself, I wanted nothing to do with consistent chiropractic, massage, acupuncture, pills, any of that. I didn't believe that was going to get me healthy long term. I felt like it could serve a quick piece of the puzzle, but I knew long term, if I wanted to be out of pain, I needed to figure out my own back mechanics, my strength, this and that. I felt like the power to feel good in my body and healthy lied within me, and I knew I had work to do. So when I'm asking the chiropractors and the physical therapists, and they're telling me there's nothing I can do aside from keep coming back, getting adjustments, take these pills, potentially surgery later on down the road, I literally was like, F that. And then I found Andrew, bought his program, went through it. And I'm getting the sense that that's where you're at as well. I think we have this nuanced view of the goods and bads of the medical system, but I think ultimately what we're trying to filter out with our programs is there's a place for all of it. But the place that we see here at Whealth, what we offer is we're going to give you a very, very robust lifestyle, movement, nutrition program that you can take every single day and work on the exercises, work on the workouts, learn your body, start to gain strength, address your posture, your imbalances, everything. And then you're like, wow, what I thought I was reliant on for musculoskeletal pain or shoulder pain, neck pain, ankle pain, all those things that you dealt with, you realize that the power was within your own hands the entire time.
Yeah. And I'm not any more special than the next person for being able to do this. Right. It just comes down to, you know, how badly do you want to fix your issues that you have?
Sure.
And it's like, if I can do it, the person next to me can do it too.
Right. So why do you feel like that though? I mean, take me through. Well, let's work, I guess, let's work up the chain, right? And so you kind of started to see you're working in the medical system a bit, kind of feeling like there is this just collective brainwash or cultural phenomenon for a lot of us wanting the quick fix, and a lot of the solutions, frankly, are around the quick fix. And so you saw that, and that opened up your eyes. Then moving forward from there, you're still dealing with pain as you're kind of working at, you say what was it? Neuro?
I worked at like a neurosciences center within the hospital.
So were you helping them rehab, or what was that?
No, it was more just like helping the doctor, like
Okay.
prep the patient for the visit.
Okay.
Yeah, but there was like a neurosurgery center within that as well. And I also had exposure where these patients would get surgery and it wasn't always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's really sad to see because, you know, I think a lot of people look up to doctors, and it's not always a doctor's fault. It just might not be the best care for their situation.
Right. Yeah, it's a mismatch of really the problem and the solution for a lot of cases, right? If a doctor can be incredible at surgery, but if that surgery is not really what you need and you get it, it's not I don't know. Anyways, a whole other conversation, which we harp on a lot. You got to be cognizant about the goal within surgery. Why are you going to do it? What are you expecting from it? Are you getting surgery on a chronic issue and treating it like it's acute, or are there some other things that you should take responsibility for potentially before you get the surgery? If the surgery is not really, if it's not life threatening, you need to do it. Right. So,
Right.
yeah. So so you saw some issues in which people thought they were going to be getting some sort of outcome from a surgery and they didn't.
Yeah, almost like an expectation that it would be like a flip of a switch, almost. Like, oh, if I get this surgery, then I'll be healed.
A lot of people think that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even tell you this before, but I also went to an orthopedic surgeon for my ankle back when I was in college. And that doctor said I could perform surgery, but I can't guarantee it'll make you better. So I mean, I wasn't convinced. Yeah, he didn't have to say much for that.
Right.
I was like, all right, so I'm not getting surgery.
Yeah. So yeah, you're like, I could perform it, but I can't guarantee. So you're like, what was he even trying to sell you on that though? Or was he just pretty upfront about it?
I think he was upfront.
Cool.
Yeah. And he was like, look, you're still young. I don't think this surgery would guarantee you to be fully healthy. And I don't want it to like trickle down later on.
Sure.
So,
okay. Good. Yeah. I mean, there are lots of incredible professionals out there who I think they want to help. And then they also realize, I'm getting in the wrong system to actually be able to help people. And I know that's how Katie felt as a nurse. You get in and you want to help, and then you're like, oh, I can't really actually, like, what does helping really mean?
right.
Helping, I think a lot of times, true help, aside from like the medical care, when you think about the ICU, trauma centers, incredible accidents where you're saving a life that needs to be saved right there. That is, and there's a lot of emphasis in that and kind of glory in that. I feel like there's a lot of emphasis in like incurable diseases or cancer research or this and that. And I think kind of put those people on a pedestal because it seems to be the top echelon of science and medicine. And in a lot of aspects, it's really cool. And then you realize that is like the tiny minority percent of where we spend our healthcare dollars. The 99% is on chronic diseases and chronic issues that are lifestyle interventions that we would like to change. And so I think a lot of people think that they want to get into medicine or any profession, whether it be physical therapy, chiropractic, and they're like, I'm going to go and help make people feel better. I'm going to save a life in this and that. And then I think you get in and you realize
that was my original path, actually.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to go to either med school or PT school.
Yeah. No longer.
That didn't happen. Just to clarify.
No longer. So you're dealing with some hip pain, and then like, what was the final kind of bringing you into the Whealth Limitless program?
Yeah.
For December of 2024, 6 months ago.
So at that point, I also had the shoulder pain that was getting pretty bad, and to the point where I couldn't even do the sports that I enjoy, which is like pickleball.
Pickleball's sick.
Like, who doesn't like smacking it as hard as you can when it's like above your shoulder, right? But then I started like overthinking.
So you
like,
do that?
Well, I would still do it.
Right. Would it hurt?
Because sometimes it's worth the point.
Yeah.
It would hurt.
Yeah.
And then I also like to swim every week. And just even every stroke I took with my right arm, it was like a shot of pain.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, this is my body trying to communicate to me that like something is seriously off. Like, you need to prioritize this.
Okay. So bringing the shoulder overhead would be some sort of pinch. Where in the shoulder?
It was like, well, it was actually like the backside, like the
Okay.
posterior, like almost a scap area, and then also like up here too.
Okay.
And then I remember during the holidays, I think I was traveling for the holidays. I can't remember what the flight was for, but I remember like this older lady in front of me was trying to grab her carry-on over the bin, and I was next to her, but like I even hesitated to offer to help because I was like, what if it hurts my shoulder so bad that like I can't do it? And that to me, I was like, that's a problem because I mean, first off, everyone around me is probably like, who is this young asshole not even helping out?
This inconsiderate
Yeah, like
28
he's
year
like
old.
clearly watching her struggle, but
Wow.
also to me, it's like if I can't even help like my neighbor out for something that's supposed to be like what we were designed to do, I need to go get help. And then I remember I was like looking at online programs, and then I found Whealth on Instagram, and then I read more into it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot.
Those little stories where people, I mean, that is the human element of pain. I mean, it's just everyone has a few of those light bulb moments that really ring, and it pushes you over the edge. Like, okay, you kind of tolerate it, and then because I recognize, like, I love lifting. I lift 5-6 days a week, and I think my love for health and fitness only got more invigorated after my injury.
Yeah.
Because you go through such a low point. And so you kind of go through this up and down, right? Especially for someone that's an athlete like us. Athlete on top of the world, or at least just enjoying your body. You feel great about it.
Right.
And then you go in this depressive pain cycle, and then you miss what you had. And then you keep going down, and then there's wake up call after wake up call. And then you're like, wow, I need to get my health back. And I think being at that really low point is such a beautiful thing. It was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And what I'm reading is you've had some of those experiences as well, where it made you reflect on what the importance is of your health at 25 or 28 or 20, rather than reflecting what it's at, what the importance is of your health at 60 or 70 if you have some sort of metabolic disease, or 75 when you fall and break your hip, which is what happens with a lot of elderly people. Like, you're able to now take what was a really crappy experience, to say the least, and then you go, wow, I can't even take care of this grandma on the airplane, let alone myself. Like, what am I doing in this meat vessel? I need to change something about it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Then, so was that one of the last moments that you had in your mind that made you be like, I need, but I also feel like you were trying to find the answers all along too.
Yeah. So that experience was game changing because it wasn't just like a sports related limitation. It was more of like an activity of daily living type of thing. And it's like, if I can't do this at 28, what's going to happen in 5 years?
Yeah. Okay.
Right. But to your point, I like internally, I always knew like I cannot give up because I wasn't born with chronic pain. So clearly, like I should be able to get back to a pain or a life without experiencing so much pain.
Right. So you felt like, hey, I didn't come out of the womb with chronic pain.
No,
So it's not something that's genetic or I was born into.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people will then feel like, well, I have this genetic thing, which is a whole nother conversation. But yeah.
Right. And pain is unique to each person, but I didn't develop that overnight. Like it came gradually.
Right.
And so I'm like, I can also get myself out of that gradually.
Yeah.
And it's just more of a matter of finding the right solution. And I've tried other online programs, and while everything has helped a little bit, it never fully was my solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did we kind of make it all the way up? So we got the ankle starting in high school basketball. Then we had the knee, which you got an MRI and X-ray on, did PT. That was inconclusive. Having hip pain, having shoulder pain, which you kind of were talking about on the backside, behind the scap, maybe mid trap, rhomboid, front of the shoulder as well. And then were you dealing with like neck pain too?
Yeah. And to clarify on the neck pain, that was one, I didn't really want to get into it, but that pain developed after a bad chiropractic adjustment, like actually starting from college. But then like the pain kind of went went away and came back. And then through the last 5 years, the neck pain has been pretty consistent while the other parts of the body started
Okay.
having pain. Yeah.
And then you found Whealth. What initially attracted you to Whealth? Or, I mean, what made you feel comfortable taking that leap and investing some money into a program?
Yeah. Well, so I think energy doesn't lie. Like you can tell when something's a little bit more motivated by just like having a business and like making it as successful as possible versus also wanting to really help. And I remember like watching the videos on the Whealth profile and I'm like, they understand the science behind this.
Sure.
And I always resonated with a like movement is medicine approach. Our bodies were designed to move, so it's like, you know, a lot of the pain is related to being sedentary too. Um, and the other thing I like is with the program, just from what I was reading and seeing, you get to hold yourself accountable instead of just relying on someone to do the work for you. And for me, I think that's a good life skill to have in general, right? Like you can translate that to other aspects throughout your life. And I wanted to hold myself accountable and just not give up on this.
Yeah.
So
Incredible.
Like, yeah.
Proud of you for not giving up, man.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And thank you for coming and sharing that. So what have the past 5 or 6 months of your life looked like in terms of, because this is the experience. Oh, the magic Limitless program, right?
Yeah.
It's a great program, but the magic comes in the execution of the time and days that you followed the program and you made the iterations and improvement and reflected. So can you break it down into what is like one day of Whealth look like, 1 week, 1 month, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, so I remember because I reached out to you after like the first week.
Yeah.
And like module 1 of the program that I was in requires like some scapular movement.
Yeah.
And I realized I basically didn't have a right scapula. Like it was,
it was just stuck. Like it just wouldn't move.
yeah. And I think the muscles around it were overcompensating. So
Okay.
like I just didn't have any like functionality with it.
Sure.
But then the exercises that were prescribed in that set actually got them to move. And I felt instant relief.
Wow.
So that was also motivating. I mean, who doesn't like to see progress within a day, right? Like
the overnight fix, right? Yeah.
If there is one, it was that.
Okay. Was that the scap scoop in mod 1?
Yes, these, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then also the I think the shoulder
cars, yeah, scapular cars probably.
And even the scap push-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just getting connected with the scaps. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
So first time, was that out of all the physical therapy experience you had, chiropractic, 10 years of pain, that was the first time you had learned some of these skills?
I've done other online programs that have had similar movements, but for some reason, and maybe it's because my shoulder pain was so bad at this point.
Sure.
But it like instantly after that first session, I felt relief.
After the first day?
Like within the next 30 minutes, I was like, oh, this doesn't hurt anymore.
Wow.
This is like what's going on? It was so uncommon to feel that way that I thought something was off. That's how
you're like, what's wrong? I feel so good.
Like, is this too good to be true? But it's not. So that was after 1 day. Then after 1 month, I think I started realizing other parts of my body weren't being used properly because, the program has all different types of exercises.
Yeah.
And then what you asked, 3 months or?
Yeah. So I was just kind of curious. Okay. Hey, what are we feeling for a day? But also just how many days a week were you doing the program?
I would say 5 to 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 5 to 6 days a week, you felt that immediate shoulder relief for the first time in like 7 years after one workout. How long on average were the Limitless workouts taking you?
So I would say about an hour.
Okay.
And to clarify, like anytime something said 2 to 4 sets. I would do 4.
Okay.
I'm like, I was all in on this because one, I knew it worked, but two, it's like when you want something so bad, like you will find the motivation to put in the time.
Sure.
And there were days where I was just like out and about and it was hard for me to get a workout in. So I would give myself grace, and I would also get pain flare ups every now and then. But I know that's like part of the journey.
Sure.
But about an hour every time I did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're back. We closed the garage door. We had a gardener out there. So you were saying that it was about an hour a day of the program, but because you would do so for those who are not in the program, some of the workouts will say, hey, 2 to 4 rounds of XYZ. And we do that. So if you are short on time, then what you can go ahead and do is, do the 2 or 3 rounds, right? So you're saying it'd be about an hour per workout because you would do the full workout.
Right.
Okay, cool. So hour a day, 5 days a week. And within about a month, you kind of started realizing like other benefits within the body.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, I mean, how did you start to actually notice it positively impact your life? Or I don't need to put words in your mouth and say positively, but how did it start to impact your life?
Yeah. Well, what I liked about the modules were that there's a nutrition aspect for each one. And I think Katie does a really great job of explaining it to the general population. And so I realized, pain isn't just the physical aspect. It could be multifactorial, right? It could be what you put in your body, the inflammation you might be having from it. And so I noticed like when I started changing my eating habits, I slept better too. Like I went to more of like a 16-8 schedule for intermittent fasting.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then that gave me more energy because I slept better and I also felt better. And then I felt like my mental health was better too, because over time throughout the modules with less and less pain, I felt more free to get back to doing the things that I love.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one thing too. When we were at coffee, we were kind of talking about the benefits that you saw from the nutrition course. And it literally dawned on me. I'm like, I forgot the Limitless program has a nutrition course in there, because we talk a lot about movement. And if we were to put like all the eggs in one basket for the course and kind of explain what it is, it's a movement course, but there's so many other things intertwined in there.
Right.
So that's really awesome to hear that you were enjoying that. So going from just when you were starting, like, how would you explain your mental headspace? Were you depressed? Were you anxious? I mean, how was that kind of turmoil at that point in time? Because I know you were at a very, a low point starting. And, where are you now? How did that kind of climb up?
Yeah. I don't know if I would say I felt depressed, but I was very frustrated because I knew I was capable of getting to a healthy lifestyle. But I think it has given me more confidence too. You know what's interesting? People actually comment on my energy.
Wow.
In the past 2 months, multiple people have said like there's been something about you that just seems different. Like you seem really happy.
Is this like people at work, people around you?
I was up in LA, so I saw some friends that I
Okay.
don't typically see all the time.
Wow.
I will say one reason is maybe because I moved to San Diego. It's like paradise here. So
it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's why we're getting a little hot. It's this is like the first hot day we've had in a while.
pretty hot.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the beach later today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, you did move from Atlanta to San Diego, right?
Yeah.
So
that helps.
that definitely helps.
That definitely helps. But I think even like being in the moment around others, I just had more energy. I mean, even my posture has improved, right? Like I used to kind of be like hunched over, caved in, and it's not perfect, but like one of my friends said, like I seem a lot brighter, and I think it's because I'm in less pain.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're talking about, back in college or after, you're going to dinner with your friends and, oh, I don't want to show that I'm in pain, so I'm going to the bathroom. You're clearly not present, right? You're thinking about
Yeah.
when's the next time I'm going to go to the bathroom to readjust my neck, or, so anyone in chronic pain knows it's just, it's this little dimmer on in the back of your mind. And sometimes it's turned up, sometimes it's down, sometimes it's just, it's like a siren or a little buzz that's always running, or it's running more than you'd like. And so that clouds out your ability to focus and be present and enjoy what you want to do. It's always, it's just, it's the worst thing ever. So I can see now you kind of you're more clear headed. Why do you think you're more confident?
Because, well, one, it's like, I think, it's easier to envision yourself as that version of you that you've always desired. And then you start to embody that, right?
Mm.
It's like, oh yeah, I am that person that I've always imagined not being in pain all the time. And I think like subconsciously, like your body language correlates to how you're thinking about yourself. So like when I observe other people, especially the more confident people, they're usually, relaxed, calm. They don't talk too fast, and I realize like for me, even when I'm walking like down the streets, like I'm more upright. And it just feels good. And I think also when it comes to confidence, it's like you can do the things that you knew you were capable of doing. And so for me, it's like overcoming this pain that gives me a big boost of confidence and knowing like if I can do that, I can do. Do you know how many other things I could do if I could tackle this pain that I've had for a decade?
Right.
So
that's I feel like I've been blessed in my life with parents and family and people around me, great friends, like great support system, a lot of great things. I will say the absolute most challenging thing I've ever done is deal with sciatica and losing my identity and being in pain every day and going through those bouts and then going through it and successfully tackling it. And I haven't had sciatica now for 7 years. I don't want to say I'm pain free, but I'm like 99% pain free. And what I mean by that is over the course of 7 years since doing Andrew's program, there have been no more than 5 or 10 days where I've had like injuries that have prevented me from training. One of those was an Achilles flare up where I couldn't run for like 4 days because I was training for a marathon and I overdid it. So, that's on me. So it's like for all intents and purposes, living life for the most part, chronic pain free has been incredible. Now, because I don't have that pain, I subject myself to more pain, i.e. pushing myself harder in the gym. So look, you're always going to have a level of pain, but I think what we're talking about here is that debilitating kind of musculoskeletal pain, just not the good kind of stuff that you're not choosing to, you don't want that, right? I want the pain in the gym because I know it's a good kind of pain, but also it's a weird thing. Like knock on wood, knock on wood, I really don't want to ever have to deal with sciatica again, but it was truly the most challenging thing I've overcome. And I fully resonate with that. How it has blessed my life. It made me feel like I can do so many other things. I'm like, that was the hardest physical, mental obstacle I've ever overcome. Like everything else, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I feel like it should be easier.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it is easier said than done.
Right.
But I actually want to ask you something.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like every now and then you might have some sort of flare up.
Yeah.
How do you navigate through those?
It's a great question. I would say the first thing would be not freaking out. So like, I think a lot of times we have a tendency to like catastrophize the situation. And I think that's your brain trying to send out signals like, hey, alarm's going on. I'm having pain. I need to freak out. I need to protect myself. And so I think that was one of the first things that I had to realize was after having really bad pain, it gets better. I'm like 6 months, 8 months out of the sciatica window. I'm like, wow, like I don't really have pain anymore. You kind of, I don't want to say it's like an imposterish feeling, but you're like, am I through the clear?
Yeah.
Am I good? has the work that I've done been enough? Or is it going to come back? And so you're like, when am I out of that flare up stage versus when am I like really good and then I'm going to be okay? And so I will say maybe the first potentially like scary instance I had after going through sciatica was probably like 3-4 years after. I lifted for 2 hours, then I went for a 45-mile bike ride, and
something like just a little workout.
So yeah, and I was really pushing it, and dude, my QL locked up, like it tugged, and I go like first thing, oh my gosh, did I just mess up my back again? And I couldn't really walk for like 5 days, and I was like, all right, got to take a deep breath. I've been there before. If I need to restart, I will, but I'm just going to get back to the basics. And in those 5 days, I walked as much as possible. I regressed. I went back to the basics. Like I worked on the small things that I could focus on. And it was actually a really good kind of humbling moment to like get back in touch with what our members are dealing with.
Yeah.
Not on like a, extended period of time, but just like a few days. So long-winded way of saying, try not to catastrophize it. Like if you've made improvements and then you feel a flare up come back, it will get better. And then just go back to the drawing board. Like there's always something you can do again. There's always something you can regress to, and you can make improvements there. And like, just understand that you're not going to be back at square one because you've learned so many things already. Again, easier said than done, but yeah. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Yeah. And I asked that because I don't know if I told you at the coffee shop. But,
Okay.
I had like a freak injury, my lower back injury a couple months ago, where I thought I broke my back. But
really,
I went to the hospital. I went to the ER because
wow,
it's kind of embarrassing, but it was a pickleball injury.
Okay.
I basically twisted in a really weird way to save a ball, which I did.
Hey.
I don't know if it was worth the point, but
sure.
Like my back cracked.
Okay.
And then like I couldn't stand up shortly after. But basically, I had some thoughts of like, oh, like, am I not doing the Whealth program correctly? Or like, what does this mean about the type of like activities that I'm doing? And so I think like those thoughts are natural to have. But then like when you change your relationship to that circumstance, like that setback that you had, that I had, and remind yourself, no, like you are doing this right. It's just like don't think that the program isn't helping. Like,
right.
I was just curious to know your take on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Every time these things do pop back up, like, when I couldn't walk for 3-4 days because of the Achilles thing, when I couldn't walk for 4 or 5 days because of the QL, I will say there were aspects of it that felt like they sucked in the moment, but I had been at a way, way darker, more challenging place before. And I was able to remember and just realize how many incredibly positive things I've learned because of that. And so trying to have that foresight in that difficult situation, that same good can come out of that situation, even while you're dealing with that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is a mindset that is applicable to not just pain and injury, but anything in life. Knowing that hardship and challenge is part of the situation, but if you are looking for the good, the gratitude, the things that you can learn through it, you don't have to be through that challenge to know that it can bless you and it's going to be good, and you can still enjoy aspects of it through that. So, I mean, even for instance, I personally try to look at, because this situation is happening to me, what can I do right now that I wouldn't have been doing otherwise that I can enjoy? So for me, when I was training super hard for my marathon and my Achilles flared up, I hopped on the bike and went and rode with a few friends. And it was like, wow, okay, I get to go do that with my friends rather than run. in the grand scheme of things, it's like, oh, you can't run or walk for a few days, whatever. The other place that my mind went to is, hey, I'm a co-founder here for a business that helps people get out of chronic pain, rehab. And it's important for us to resonate and remember with the struggles mentally and physically that people deal with. And I was like, life's been too good to me. Like, I need to bring myself back down. And, I need to just be humbled a little bit. Just kind of remember what that adversity feels like. Maybe that's a silly way of looking at it, but I just feel like, hey, here's the reality of the situation. This thing that I'm dealing with isn't fun, but what can I learn about it? That's just kind of how I tend to tackle those challenges. Then the other way to do it would be, hey, what can I learn about it? Was there something dumb I did in this instance? Like for me, when I had that QL flare up, I was like, that was way too much volume stacked on a day. I lifted for 2 hours and then I went immediately to road biking for 3 hours, hunched in a position like this. Like that was really uncomfortable for my back. I just overdid that volume as well. So sometimes you can,
Right.
And same thing with the marathon training, other things, like sometimes you just pushed it too much. Your body is not invincible. It can recover, but you can be smarter as well.
Yeah. Because the same thing happened to me. I did like a really, really extreme workout before pickleball.
Yeah.
And I was already feeling like some back pain,
Right.
but I ignored it.
Yeah.
And then this injury taught me, no, like listen to your body and make sure you take care of it.
Yeah.
And what's awesome about Whealth is I was still able to take pieces of the modules when I was recovering from that back injury, and I just modified.
Yeah.
But yeah, because like it was a great way to do just like natural PT for that. So
I think that's another, we should probably wrap it up, but I think that's another thing that I have thought about. There are a lot of people that tie their identity to like biking or swimming or running. And when you get an injury that takes you out from that thing, it can be devastating if you only know or do that one thing, right? So a runner getting injured and that's all they do and they don't really necessarily appreciate the gym, or a biker getting injured and they can't get back on the bike, that can be devastating. And it can feel like I can't make progress because I can't do the one thing that I want to do. Whereas I would say what has been really awesome about the Whealth program and what we learn is like you learned 100+ skills in the program.
Oh yeah.
At least, right?
Oh yeah.
And there's millions of skills, right? So it's just, hey, these are the ones that we put in the program. But then you kind of realize like, wow, there are so many avenues that I can actually continue to move and work around any given injury, that an injury does not need to hold me back. I can still make progress.
Yeah.
Now, I was talking to Andrew, other Andrew on our podcast this morning about Jeremy Renner, who's the actor who got run over by a 14,000-pound snowplow 2 years ago. I think he's like a Captain America guy. But anyways, I was just listening to his podcast. He broke 35 bones, multiple surgeries.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was his eye popped out of his skull.
Anything else?
Right? Yeah. And that was like clearly not much he could do, but still he was talking about what he could do each day. Hey, I can just get a little bit better here and a little bit better here and just work one step at a time. And that's, I think, what I would encourage people dealing with chronic pain is there are so many avenues in which you can learn to move. If your back or your ankle or your hip is bothering you, there's a lot of different exercises for that area that you can do. You can always modify range of motion. You can always do something there. And then also like look at the big picture. What else are you missing within your body as well that you can work on? Say you're having shoulder pain. It's very easy to just be like, oh, here's the pain. Here's the problem. Start to work on the scapula, the rib cage, the breathing. Start to understand how the rest of the body can affect that piece of tissue or joint. And you can make progress by working on other areas of the body as well, because that will affect the coordination. So I think it's just a long-winded way of saying invest in learning skills about your body head to toe.
Yeah.
And I think that's another way in which like I'm going to have flare-ups in the future if I continue to push myself, or if I don't and I sit on a couch forever. So inevitably something else is going to pop up in my life. but I'm just accumulating more and more skills to know how to tackle that challenge.
And you learn a lot in this program
Yeah.
for sure. Even when I go to the gym, I'm not just going through the motions anymore and lifting. I'm making sure I'm engaging the right muscles, my technique's better, it's
Right.
more effective. I don't have to go as high in weights because like I'm realizing I need to go lower and do it correctly.
Sure.
So, but it's so worth it. So worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's hot. We're sweating, so
Oh my
I'm not gonna
gosh.
keep going
I
into
know,
it. But
right?
it's yeah.
We were getting a little more airflow before we closed the garage. But last question, moving forward for you, what are some things you're excited about, or do you have any particular goals as you head into your 30s? I mean, do you feel like you're more capable to achieve X, Y, Z, or anything you're excited about?
Yeah, well, the first thing is, I think I strive to prioritize like body maintenance more
Okay.
rather than just like working out. Like making sure I'm keeping my mobility, my range of motion optimally. I would also say like health is a continuous journey. So it's like I learned so much from this program, but it doesn't stop there, right?
Yeah.
But I can use the tools from what I learned here and apply it to in the gym or um, just understand how the body works more and more.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm personally passionate about. That's one of my goals. But just living a lifestyle where I can get back to doing the things that I love.
Yeah.
Which has already helped. So
hey, there we go. Well, I'm super. The highlight of that for me was just hearing when you talked about how other people are talking about your confidence, your energy, how you feel like that, because that is such a liberating feeling to have that confidence, to have that freedom in your mind. Those are the things that no matter the words that you try to put on the website, like that's why our program is called Limitless. People think it's this cliche thing until you feel it.
Yeah.
Like that's the sense of what Limitless is. You're like, I have the freedom to be healthy right now. I have the freedom to know in the future if something happens to my body, I can take care of it way faster, better for the most part than anyone else or anything else could.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. And it's like you're removing limiting beliefs along the way of what you're capable of accomplishing, So yeah, I love it.
All right. Hey, let's go. We're going to go hop in the sauna. Cheers.